Students and other researchers often have a difficult time finding primary sources. Primary sources, of course, are documents and other materials from the time under study. So for instance, the front page of a newspaper from the early 1920s. We have at the library a large number of research databases that deal specifically with primary sources. So while it might seem difficult, having these databases makes it quite a bit easier. So in this video, I'm going to discuss several of the potential databases that you might use to find primary sources. And I'll also mention how you can go about finding additional resources if those don't do the trick. Just a few of the databases that you might consider I've listed here, and I'll show you how you can access the complete list of primary sources databases. Here I've given just a few tips that you might consider using when searching for primary sources. One of the main things that I often tell researchers to consider is the use of outdated terminology. The example I've given here, for instance, is consumption as opposed to the modern term tuberculosis. Okay, so let's get into how you can access these primary resource research databases. On the library's homepage, you can find a link to our complete list of research databases. And from here, if we go to all database types, you can select the one that says primary sources, and you'll see it has 33. This indicates the number of databases that contain primary sources. This isn't entirely accurate. There are other databases that have primary sources in them, but there are 33 that specifically focus on primary sources. Again, one of the more common primary source types are newspaper articles. So let's take a look at a database that has a number of older newspapers, and that one is called simply Historical Newspapers. This is a database from a company called ProQuest, and there are, let's see, if we go to the list of publications in this database at the top, you'll see that there are 36 newspapers these are major U.S. papers, so the Atlanta Constitution, there's some Chicago papers, New York Times, etc. Okay, so here we are at the advanced search in historical papers, and I'm going to look up Elaine, Arkansas. And we have over 5,000 results. This is where sorting or restricting to a certain date range can be very helpful when looking for primary sources. So I'm going to come down here and choose custom date range. And you'll see I've already entered 1919 to 1921. This is when the famous race riots in Elaine, Arkansas took place. So I'll click apply so that all of the results are from within that date range. And then I'm going to actually sort by oldest first. And as we go through, there are a few that appear to be irrelevant to what I'm looking for, but the fifth result, bloody race riots in Arkansas County, 9 men reported killed. This is from the Atlanta Constitution from October 1919, and if I click on the full text PDF here, I can take a look at the actual scanned image of the paper. So it is alleged certain whites have been distributing incendiary propaganda. So that was actually, as you can see, fairly simple. We went to the appropriate database, we searched for our search terms, and brought up an article in short order. Let's take a look at a couple of other databases. Okay, so we've returned to the list of primary sources databases, and I'm going to scroll down to a database called Artemis Primary Sources. I think this may change names soon. If it does, it will probably have the company name Gale in it. And if we take a look here, I'm going to search for Little Rock in quotation marks, so I get the exact name, those exact words in that order, and integration. And you'll see that it divides the results into various types of sources: monographs, manuscripts, newspapers and periodicals, images, videos, etc. I'm actually going to just point out the second one, Orville E. Faubus, Governor of the State of Arkansas et al. Versus United States of America. So this is actually the Supreme Court case. So this went all the way to the top when Orville Faubus and others attempted to prevent the integration of Little Rock high schools. And so you can see the actual Supreme Court decision here. You can adjust the size. Whoops, that's a bit small. Let's go back. And if I want to see more results, there were quite a few court cases. I can go and take a look at those. I also think these are quite interesting under manuscripts. You can see the sort of pre-press and the notes from these Associated Press collections. So everything that they kind of wrote up before it went to press on the topic of segregation integration in Little Rock. Okay, let's take a look at one last database, and then I would encourage you, if these don't work for you, to explore some of the other primary sources databases that we have. This one that I want to look at is called America's Historical Newspapers. And I like this one because it also searches African American newspapers. So those are papers that were actually published by African Americans. And we're going to search for lynched or lynching. I would search for, Lynch with an asterisk, but that's also a fairly common last name, and so you get a lot of false positives or irrelevant results that way. This way, though, we'll get either the term lynched or lynching. And again, a lot of these are going to be from papers that were published by African Americans. We could, for instance, just search in the title of articles to possibly narrow down our results, but this is just to illustrate what you might find. So this one sounds quite relevant, the servile insurrection in Mississippi. This is from all the way back in 1835. We could take a look at that article and potentially use it. You can narrow down by the city or the publication, the era, so on and so forth. Any number of ways you might limit your search to improve the quality of the results. Okay, so that should get you started. I'll mention that you can contact the library for further assistance. On the library's homepage under Contact the Library, we have our email here. You can call our phone. And then we also have a 24/7 chat service that you can use. So you can also find my contact information under faculty and staff. My name is Robert Robinette. If you'd like to contact me directly for research assistance, I'm happy to help you.